As the officers prepared to leave, Patricia's face suddenly brightened with inspiration. Wait, I have proof this is a public thoroughfare. She fumbled through her phone, triumphantly displaying a Google Maps screenshot. See? It shows a path right here. Officer Rodriguez leaned in with professional patience. Ma'am, Google Maps also sometimes shows routes through shopping malls and private buildings. It's not a legal document. But it's GOOGLE, Patricia insisted, as if this settled everything. From the growing crowd, a teenager in a GameStop uniform called out. That's because your son Jeremy kept reporting it as a public path through Google's Mapmaker tool. Several neighbors nodded in confirmation. Patricia glared at the teen with such intensity that he took an involuntary step backward. Mark Evans, I will be speaking to your mother about this disrespect. She's right behind you, Mark replied with teenage indifference. And she thinks you're being ridiculous. Officer Chen, struggling to maintain his professional demeanor, finally spoke. Ma'am, we've established this is a civil matter. However, he added, his voice growing more serious, falsely reporting an emergency is a criminal offense. Patricia's attention snapped back to the officers. Are you threatening me with arrest? For protecting my community? Her voice rose dramatically. This is police intimidation. I'm recording everything. She thrust her phone forward, though she had clearly forgotten to actually press record. Todd, who had been trying to achieve invisibility in the passenger seat of the Range Rover, finally emerged with slumped shoulders. Patricia, please, let's just go home and talk about this rationally. Rationally? Rationally? Patricia's voice hit a pitch that made several birds take flight from nearby trees. There's nothing rational about destroying community access that's been used for decades. 8 years, Mrs. Jenkins corrected loudly from her porch. The path started when the Johnsons' teenage son kept cutting across to meet his girlfriend after curfew. Before that, we all used the sidewalk like civilized people. Patricia whirled to face this new betrayal. Edith Jenkins, you're being manipulated by this property tyrant. Officer Rodriguez stepped between them, his patience visibly wearing thin. That's enough. Mr. Henderson has the legal right to build on his property. If you continue to harass him or make false emergency calls, there will be consequences. He handed Patricia a citation for misuse of emergency services. This is a warning. There's a $500 fine next time. As Patricia sputtered incoherently, Rodriguez turned to Michael. Sir, I recommend documenting any further incidents. If the harassment continues, a restraining order might be appropriate. Patricia gasped theatrically. A restraining order? Against me? Do you know how many community volunteer hours I've logged? I was runner-up for HOA president 3 years in a row. I voted for the other candidate, Mrs. Jenkins stage whispered, triggering nervous laughter from the gathered neighbors. As the police cruisers pulled away, Patricia stood frozen in indignation, citation in hand. The crowd began to disperse, the entertainment portion of their day complete. Michael returned to his fence building, conscious of Patricia's glare burning into his back. This isn't over, she finally announced to no one in particular. Not even close. She stalked back to her Range Rover, dragging Todd by his polo sleeve. Call your cousin the real estate attorney, and your brother the city councilman, and that weird friend of yours who knows about property law. He's a maritime lawyer, Patricia. Todd protested weakly as he was shoved into the passenger seat. The law is the law, Togli D. As they drove away, Michael caught Mrs. Jenkins' eye. She gave him a thumbs up and mouthed what looked suspiciously like, "Round one to you." As the laughter at the Goonies photo revelation subsided, Patricia's face cycled through emotions like a slot machine. Shock, anger, embarrassment, and finally, her emergency backup emotion, righteous indignation. I'm being mulkeyed in a formal proceeding, she declared, her voice cracking. This entire meeting is biased against me. Howard Fisher adjusted his now completely sideways bow tie. Patricia, you've been given ample time to present your case. Now if I may continue with the association's proposal. I have one more thing to say. Patricia interrupted, digging frantically in her designer tote bag. She produced a folder with "Ye Jail" written across it in what appeared to be red lipstick. I've consulted with 3 attorneys who all confirmed that this situation falls under the doctrine of, she squinted at her notes, prescriptive easement through continuous hostile use without permission for the statutory period. The HOA lawyer raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Wilson, did these attorneys happen to mention that the statutory period in our state is 20 years, and Mr. Henderson has only owned the property for 9? Patricia waved dismissively. Details. The point is, we've been using it, we need to use it, and therefore, we should be able to use it. That's not how property law works, the lawyer replied dryly. From the back of the room, a quiet voice spoke up. All heads turned to see Todd Wilson standing, looking simultaneously terrified and determined. I think we should accept the compromise, he said, his voice gaining strength with each word. The improved walkway will actually be safer than cutting across Michael's yard. My daughter twisted her ankle there last year during the night. Something I never told you, Patricia, because I knew you'd overreact. The room fell silent. Patricia stared at her husband as if he'd suddenly started speaking in tongues. Todd, she hissed, sit down. No, he replied simply. I'm tired of pretending that inconveniencing yourself by walking an extra minute is some kind of human rights violation. He turned to Michael. I apologize for the damage to your property and for my part in enabling this situation. Patricia's shock at this betrayal rendered her momentarily speechless, a phenomenon so rare that several neighbors discreetly recorded it on their phones. Howard seized the opportunity to call for a vote. The results were decisive. The association would fund improvements to the proper walking route and formally recognize Michael's property rights. As the meeting adjourned, Patricia remained frozen in her chair, staring into the middle distance. Todd cautiously approached Michael. That felt surprisingly good, Todd admitted, though I'll probably be sleeping on the couch for the foreseeable future. Worth it? Michael asked. Todd watched as Patricia snapped out of her trance and began furiously texting what he assumed was her divorce attorney. Completely worth it. Over the following weeks, the neighborhood transformation was remarkable. Contractors installed solar lighting along the proper walkway, adding benches and landscaping that made the road genuinely pleasant. Michael's fence, now complete, featured climbing roses and ornamental grasses that enhanced rather than detracted from the neighborhood aesthetic. Most surprisingly, Patricia herself underwent a transformation, not by choice, but by necessity. With her shortcut crusade defeated and her social capital depleted, she redirected her formidable energy toward the one area where her controlling tendencies might be welcomed, the previously neglected community garden. She's still telling everyone what to do, Mrs. Jenkins observed one morning as they watched Patricia aggressively instructing volunteers on proper tomato staking techniques. But at least the vegetables don't seem to mind. Mrs. Jenkins shuffled back to her porch after delivering the lemonade, but not before whispering, Patricia's husband, Todd, is on the Homeowners Association board, but he's terrified of her. Play your cards right, and he might be your secret ally. Michael nodded gratefully, watching Patricia's Range Rover screech away. The crowd of onlookers slowly dispersed, some offering sympathetic nods, others shooting disapproving glares. He returned to his fence installation with renewed determination, the confrontation having only strengthened his resolve. An hour later, a modest Honda pulled up. Todd Wilson stepped out, looking nervously over his shoulder as if expecting Patricia to materialize from thin air. He approached Michael with the cautious body language of someone who'd spent years walking on eggshells. Hey, Michael, got a minute? Todd's voice was surprisingly soft for a man his size. Michael set down his post-hole digger. Sure, Todd. What's up? Todd ran a hand through his thinning hair. Look, I want to apologize for Patricia earlier. She gets intense about things. That's one word for it, Michael replied, trying to keep the bitterness from his voice. The thing is, Todd continued, lowering his voice, I actually agree with you. This is your property. We have no right to use it as a public road. He glanced furtively toward the direction his wife had driven. But if Patricia knew I said that, I'd be sleeping in the pool house for a month. Michael studied the man. Todd was successful by any measure, senior VP at an insurance company, according to neighborhood gossip. Yet here he was, terrified of his own wife's reaction to his reasonable opinions. I appreciate that, Todd, genuinely. Todd shifted uncomfortably. Patricia's planning something. When she gets that look in her eye, he shuddered. Just wanted to warn you. She's on the phone with her cousin who's a paralegal, and she's mobilizing the book club. That's never a good sign. The book club? Michael raised an eyebrow. They haven't actually read a book in 3 years, Todd confided. It's basically her personal army. Last year, they got the community pool manager fired because he enforced the no glass containers rule when Patricia brought her wine. A text alert chimed on Todd's phone. He checked it and paled visibly. Gotta go. She's heading home. But listen. He pulled a business card from his wallet and scribbled something on the back. This is my private cell. If things get out of hand, call me directly. As Todd hurried back to his car, Michael examined the card. On the back, Todd had written, "Security camera on Elm Tree points directly at your property. Password. Patricia is always right 123. Footage autosaves for 30 days. Michael pocketed the card with a grim smile. Apparently, not everyone in the Wilson household was on Team Patricia. By sundown, Michael had installed enough fence posts to clearly outline his property perimeter. The neighborhood was unusually quiet as he packed up his tools, the calm before the storm. His phone buzzed with a neighborhood app notification. Patricia had created an event for tomorrow titled Emergency Meeting. Save Our Community ACCS. The description included phrases like power-mad neighbor, children's safety at risk, and bizarrely, potential property value collapse. Michael's doorbell rang just as he finished reading. It was the delivery driver with his order, a professional-grade security camera system with night vision, motion detection, and cloud backup. Perfect timing, Michael said, signing for the package. The driver glanced at the half-completed fence. Trouble with the neighbors. Let's just say I'm documenting local wildlife, Michael replied, particularly the Karen species. I hear they're most active during HOA disputes. Patricia recoiled from Gloria's comment as if she'd been slapped. How dare you? I was in bed all night with a lavender eye mask and noise machine. That must be your twin sister in the security footage then, Gloria replied dryly. The one with your exact haircut, designer hoodie, and tendency to whisper-shout at her husband. Officer Rodriguez cleared his throat. Mrs. Wilson, we have clear evidence of criminal trespassing and vandalism. We can discuss this at the station if you prefer. Patricia's tactical mind quickly assessed her deteriorating position. I want my lawyer present for any further questions, she declared, retreating into her house with what dignity she could muster. Todd lingered in the doorway, mouthing sorry to the officers before Patricia yanked him inside. By afternoon, Michael's security footage had somehow leaked to the neighborhood messaging app. Though he hadn't shared it, Mrs. Jenkins looked suspiciously pleased with herself as she watered her begonias, occasionally checking her iPad with unusual interest for a woman who had previously described technology as newfangled nonsense. The video changed the neighborhood dynamic overnight. Patricia's support dwindled to her most loyal followers, primarily those who owed her favors or feared her social retribution. Even her book club showed fractures, with 3 members suddenly discovering scheduling conflicts for the upcoming meeting. As Michael installed the final section of his fence, Howard Fisher, the HOA president, stopped by under the pretense of a neighborly chat. Quite a situation we have, Howard said, glancing nervously toward Patricia's house. She's demanding an emergency HOA meeting to discuss your violations of community standards. Michael paused his work. Is there actually a violation? Howard shook his head. None whatsoever. Your fence meets all guidelines. It's properly permitted. It's on your property. He lowered his voice. Between us, the board is tired of Patricia's reign of terror, but no one's had the courage to stand up to her. Until now, Michael observed. Until now, Howard agreed with a small smile. The meeting is scheduled for Saturday. Patricia thinks it's her platform to demand your fence removal. What she doesn't know is that the board's legal counsel will be presenting a comprehensive review of property boundaries throughout the neighborhood. Sounds like a fascinating meeting, Michael said with a grin. Oh, it gets better, Howard replied, his earlier nervousness replaced with subtle mischief. We've invited the county surveyor to discuss the importance of respecting established property lines, and the head of the city's zoning department will explain liability issues when trespassing is encouraged. Patricia won't like that lineup. No, she won't, Howard agreed. But after years of her steamrolling the community, the board has finally found its backbone. Your fence was the last straw, or rather, her reaction to your fence was. As Howard left, Michael's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk storm coming. P organizing pre-meeting rally Friday night. Expect supporters to bring signs, matching t-shirts ordered, calling for community pathway easement vote. Stay strong. Asterisk. Michael smiled as he hammered in the final fence post. Friday's rally would be Patricia's last stand, but the real showdown would come Saturday at the HOA meeting, where the neighborhood would finally decide whether property rights still mattered or if entitled demands could override them. His phone buzzed again. Mrs. Jenkins had texted a photo of herself and her power-walking senior friends, each giving a thumbs up in front of Michael's nearly completed fence. The caption read, "Team Sanity is ready for Saturday." Michael replayed Patricia's voice message once more before deleting it, noting how her voice shifted from saccharine sweetness to barely concealed rage in the span of 30 seconds. He'd seen Patricia in action at neighborhood meetings, her tactical use of phrases like "as a mother" and "for the children," while pushing for rules that primarily benefited her own property. The following morning brought more unwelcome traffic. A minivan Michael didn't recognize slowed as it approached the dirt path, the driver clearly contemplating whether the no trespassing signs applied to them. After a moment's hesitation, they accelerated across his lawn, leaving fresh tire tracks that cut dangerously close to his basement window well. That's it, Michael muttered, pulling out his phone. He snapped photos of the damage, then opened his laptop to research fencing companies. The quotes make him wince. $6,800 for professional installation, but his homeowner's insurance deductible was $1,000, meaning he was already losing money on sprinkler repairs alone. While comparing cedar versus vinyl options, his doorbell rang. Michael opened the door to find Mrs. Jenkins, his 82-year-old neighbor, clutching a Tupperware container of what smelled like snickerdoodles. "Thought you might need these," she said, pressing the container into his hands. "Saw what happened to your yard. Disgraceful." "Thanks, Mrs. Jenkins. I'm finally going to put a stop to it." Her eyes lit up with surprising mischief. "Good. Patricia and her crew have been using my garden as a turnaround point. Ran over my petunias last week." She leaned closer. "Between us, I've been documenting every vehicle that crosses. Got a notebook with dates, times, and license plates." Michael laughed. "You've been collecting evidence?" 40 years as a court stenographer, dear. Old habits." She patted his arm. "Those cookies have extra cinnamon. Helps with righteous indignation." After Mrs. Jenkins departed, Michael spent the afternoon researching property law. The legal concept of prescriptive easement gave him pause. If neighbors could prove they'd been using the path for years without his explicit objection, they might have a legal claim. But his research revealed a crucial detail. In their state, such claims required at least 20 years of continuous use. He'd only owned the property for 9. That evening, Michael received an email from the Neighborhood Association president, Howard Fisher. Michael, regarding your concerns about the pathway. I've received 16 complaints about your no trespassing signs in the last 24 hours. 14 from Patricia Wilson's email accounts under different names. As association president, I should inform you that while I personally believe in property rights, tomorrow's board meeting will likely involve Patricia demanding action against your community obstruction. Unofficially, bring your property survey and permit applications, and maybe wear earplugs. Howard. Michael closed his laptop with newfound resolve. This wasn't just about his lawn anymore. It was about standing his ground against neighborhood bullying. He'd put up with the damage, the noise, and the intrusions for too long. The next morning, he called in sick to work and drove to the hardware store. If Patricia wanted a war over 47 seconds of convenience, he'd come armed with property laws, permits, and enough fencing materials to make his point abundantly clear. As he loaded posts and panels into his truck, his phone pinged with a neighborhood watch alert. Community emergency meeting, called by Patricia Wildest. 32 hold access right HTS. Tomorrow 7 p.m. Michael smiled grimly. The battle lines were drawn.